part of Ohio won something. Daryl writes, Richard Jefferson is retiring. Better to go out on top. Yeah, after 15 years, although he played a significant role, didn't he? I would love to see him come back, but he feels like this is it for him to play at this level. Great. But he played a significant role. I mean, LeBron James got help. He got help. He got help from the bench. He got help from the other starters. Kevin Love had some big rebounds earlier in the first half. I mean, it all came together. Kuther writes, Ben Girls ain't getting past the Steelers. Forget about it. Straight up Steelers fan. What, Kuther? Ben Girls. It's called the Bengals. Are you talking about the ladies, the cheerleading squad? It's called the Bengals. Ben Girls. Because I know you ain't talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I know that. Mike writes, LBJ champion and providing 1,000 plus college scholarships to the youth. That sounds great. I love it. Brent writes, the Cleveland D was crucial. I said it before. You have to keep Golden State under 100 points to beat them. Tyronn Lue was a rookie coach, too. He coached a great series. Yes, he did. And the evidence is the fact that he's got a championship. Miss D writes, I mean, and winning a championship like that, I mean, he's set. You know, he's set. Now he should enter the realm of coaches who always, their name always comes up when there's an opening. Because, yeah, you could say, well, he took a team with LeBron James, but I'm sure it takes a certain amount of finesse and coaching when you're dealing with a premier superstar talent. And if you can deal with a premier superstar talent, then you can always keep a job. Because, number one, when you've got teams with premier superstar talent, they're going to want somebody who's got experience. And then while you're managing LeBron, you're managing everybody else, and the league is full of everybody else's, okay? So now you got experience dealing with this. That's huge for Tyronn Lue. I'm very happy for him as well. And Charles writes, this morning while Aisha was making Steph's breakfast, the main ingredient she used was salt. That's a good one right there. You're right. Very salty. Very salty. But you know what? I'm not mad at her. She got to listen. You expect a woman to ride for her man, and you expect a man to ride or die for his lady. So, you know, if that's my wifey, I'd be like, wife, let's not make this work. But, I mean, you can't get mad because somebody want to come to your defense. You know what I'm saying? You can never be too mad about that. Good morning, Brenda. Good to see you. Charles writes, Verraggio gets a ring regardless. Does he? Verraggio. He gets a, you mean the king of flop? Verraggio must mean king of flop. I mean, have you ever seen a bigger flopper? And I don't know what it is about the flopping that Andy Verraggio does. Maybe it's his hair. He's got that Ronald McDonald dude with that big-ass headband, and to see this big man flopping around, it's just, it's like, don't you see what this man is doing here? Something about the hair, the way he flops with the hair, it's like Anderson Varejao is wearing that hairstyle just to irritate me. Just to irritate me. Miss D writes, Charles, all the money in the world wouldn't soothe an athlete's desire to obtain the ring, sir. Kermir writes, Ms. Deep, I think the reason LeBron left to go to Miami is to learn how to become a winner. Now he's back in Cleveland. He was ready to take it all the way. Kermia, I think you're exactly right. He learned how to be a leader from Dwayne Wade. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with him saying, listen, this is my homie, and this is what I'm getting from him. And now I'm going to take this and move it forward. I mean, what's wrong with that? We live in this world where LeBron has to, everything has to be done by him. The world is on his shoulders. No. Brittany writes, Nate, did you hear the comment that Trump made stating how nice it would have been if someone in that nightclub had guns on them and started shooting back? Oh, how nice it would have been. Later, he tried to clean it up, saying he was referring to the security in the club. This guy says anything out of his mouth, no matter how stupid it sounds, coming out of his mouth. No, you're absolutely right about that, and I did hear that. It goes back to that philosophy that what we need are more guns. We need more guns, not less guns, more guns. So if anybody missed it, basically Trump said, listen, if somebody had a gun in there, and I believe there was a security guard inside with a gun, but he was outgunned. He was outgunned. And I'm glad you brought that up, Brittany. That's a perfect segue into a clip that you must hear. You know me, I'm the king of clips to keep you updated. You must hear what's going on. And Wayne LaPierre, who is connected with the National Rifle Association. For many years, he was a CEO. He went on cable news to discuss some of his theories. Now, what you need to know is that Wayne LaPierre, CEO, at least at this time he was a CEO when he made the statement, he was for the National Rifle Association. That's right, those folks. And he basically said that the best way to deal with a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. A very simple rationale. Hell, it makes sense in the world of cartoons, action movies, and sitcoms. But in the real world, just how practical is that? In the real world, just how practical is that? Well, here's a clip for you. I want you to hear this nonsense. Well, listen, I don't want to poison the well before you drink from it. Okay, I'll strike that from the record. You tell me what you think about his comments. Check this out.
Isn't it human nature to, when something happens, to reach for an explanation of what happened? So there's the terrorist piece, there's the LGBT piece. Sure. But are people so crazy to think that a weapon that is involved in the case and has been in other cases is not something to just seek into and inquire and find out what's going on? You're kind of making it sound like it's a conspiracy. Aren't people just trying to figure out why people should be able to have access to weapons that produce bullets so quickly, and maybe we should do something to curb that? That seems like a human reaction.
John, I think we need to look right in the face of what these people are that we're facing. They don't care about the law. Laws didn't stop them in Boston. Laws didn't stop them in San Bernardino, where you had every type of gun control law you could have. And they didn't stop them in Paris, where people can't even own guns. They had fully automatic guns. They had ICDs. They had explosives. I mean, these bad guys we're facing, they don't say, oh, gosh, they passed a law. Oh, gosh, I don't think I can do it. It's like what we're doing with this debate on the Hill right now. It's like they're trying to stop a freight train with a piece of Kleenex.
Wouldn't a pause or a waiting period or extra scrutiny or something maybe create one more filter that might have caught a guy like Mateen? It goes the argument.
The filter is take them off the street, confront them directly, attack them. That's what we've got to do.
You said a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. There was a good guy with a gun in the club, couldn't stop him.
Well, what every place needs is a security plan that protects it. The fact is, we need to face what's coming. They're trying to kill us. They're not going to attack hard targets. All the hard targets are protected by the government with guns. They're going to go for vulnerabilities. They're going to go for shopping malls. They're going to go for churches. The fact is, we need vigilance. We need preparedness. We need a full court press on personal protection. We need to be able to protect ourselves.
Donald Trump has suggested concealed carry in a nightclub where people are drinking.
I don't think you should have firearms where people are drinking, but I'll tell you this, every American needs to start having a security plan. We need to be able to protect ourselves because they're coming. And they're going to go for vulnerable spots, and this country needs to realize it.
What does that mean, a security plan? Should everybody get an automatic or a semi-automatic, or should we lift the limits against automatic weapons?
I think that we're talking about the fact law-abiding people need to be able to own firearms to protect themselves. I think we need national carry reciprocity. I think every school needs a protection plan with either police officer or certified armed security. When we need to look at all our vulnerabilities, and we need to hard them because they're coming and they're going to try to kill us, and we need to be prepared. And this president, by diverting the attention to gun control movement, that's not going to solve the problem. They could care less.
Do you think Donald Trump mentioned somebody going in buying all sorts of ammunition? Should the amount of ammunition somebody buys get them extra scrutiny?
Again, you're going to an area that doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference.
Well, but he's running for the nomination, and you've endorsed him. So
that's not the issue. I mean, if we want to save lives, let's look at Chicago, okay? You got every federal gun law in the books right now. Drug dealer with a gun, 10 to 20 years. Criminal gang member with a gun, 10 to 20 years. Felon with a gun, 5 to 10 years. This federal government, that Attorney General Janet Lynch, they're not enforcing any of the federal gun laws. They're letting it happen night after night after night, and they're being given cover by the elite media like the New York Times that writes a 5-page story and it has one little paragraph.
Have to end it there, Mr. LaPierre. I'm sorry.
Let's get the bad guys off the street, attack the terrorists, and leave the good guys alone.
That's Wayne LaPierre. He sounds like a man who's very afraid, doesn't he? They're coming to kill us. And I'm not sure who the man who was asking the questions is, but his approach to that interview was totally wrong. Totally wrong. When you're dealing with someone like Wayne LaPierre, trying to ask him, these obvious questions, right, that any obvious person would obviously answer to seem legitimate is a waste of time. The man's a loose cannon. Wayne LaPierre said he supports this national right to carry reciprocity legislation. And I'm sure that many of you have never heard of it before, because at the time of viewing this video, I had never heard of it. But it's called the National Right to Carry Reciprocity legislation. This is a big piece of, again, legislation that the NRA supports, and they like to get this passed. And what does it do? Well, it was introduced by U.S. Senator John Cornyn. He's a Republican from Texas. And basically, as I understand it, if it passes, it will basically make it so that you can take your concealed and carry permit anywhere in the country as long as that particular state doesn't have laws barring concealed and carry altogether. And instead of having to get a separate allowance or separate allowance or certification, it'll just kind of be like a national thing. Take your concealed and carry weapon with you wherever you go. Do you think that'd be a good idea? One thing did come out in that interview I thought was interesting. Do you think that if someone buys a lot of ammunition, that person should get more scrutiny? That's a very valid question. And because then the next question is, how do you define a lot of ammunition? Let's say I'm a hunter, and rather than going to buy my ammunition every month, I go once a year. So I buy a lot of ammunition at one time. But I'm a hunter. Hey, maybe I hunt with my son. My son's a hunter. We're both hunters. And we got a bunch of friends. So I buy ammunition for all of us once a year so that we don't have to do this year long. We can really enjoy the hunt. Should that person now automatically be given more scrutiny? And then when you go looking for stuff, can't you always find something? That's why the good folks over at the National Rifle Association are against it. Any sense in that? Edward writes, Curry's wife might want to chill. Her husband is lucky he wasn't suspended. Yes, he was. Dale writes, unfortunately, he's right. Verjao gets a ring also. Him and LeBron also got into a little squabble. Yeah, a little bit something. You could just tell LeBron wasn't going to allow anything to stop him. And I think there's there's some life lessons in this. Just think about it. It's just the ups and downs. You got the Golden State Warriors. They seem like they were the team of the ages. I had people I know saying they could win the next 3 or 4 championships. Okay, and they only won one. And now we all know they only won that championship because of injury. Had Kyrie Irving been there, he would have balled out. Had Love been there, he would have balled out last year. We'll never know. All the people who keep saying, well, if Draymond Green had played in Game 5, it would have been over with. We don't know that. And quite honestly, there's a lot of evidence that contradicts that. Oh, really? Well, the number one piece of evidence is look at what happened. Draymond Green was there for the last 2 games, and they lost. Right? They lost. One of those games was at home, and they lost. And, oh, by the way, people say, whoa, Draymond Green would have balled out. He balled out in Game 7. He had 20-something points before halftime, and they still lost. What happened to the Splash Brothers? The Splash Brothers. What happened to the Splish Brothers? The Splash Brothers. They weren't splashing like that last night, were they? They weren't splashing. It was very interesting. Very interesting. J.R. Smith actually showed up and hit some jumpers and went to the hole and played defense and made the right pass. Rhonda writes, this clip sounds a lot like he's preparing us for the movie Purge in real life, doesn't it? It certainly does. He sounds like He has an armory at his house.